Okay.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Tech Sharmit podcast. Today I am thrilled to introduce a very special guest, Niall Brady, who is joining us all the way from Sweden. Niall is a highly accomplished IT leader who has been recognized as a Microsoft MVP 14 times. With decades of experience in IT industry, Niall has become a leading expert in user computing, operational technology, Microsoft solutions like Intune, Windows Autopilot, and Windows 365 Cloud PC. So today we will explore Niall's journey, his thoughts on the latest trends in end user computing, and how the innovative IT solutions can drive sustainability and efficiency, particularly in industries like food production. But before we start, I would like to thank Niall for joining us today in this episode. And now I request you to please initiate the discussion by telling us something about yourself.
Thanks, Amit. Yes, Niall Brady is my name. I live in Sweden. I have three sons, and they're all very interested in computers. I can tell you that much. I've been living in Sweden for most of my life now, so I'm both a Swedish citizen as well as an Irish citizen.
Okay.
And yeah, I work in IT, and I'm a 14-time Microsoft MVP, as you mentioned, both in Windows and devices and also Intune.
Okay. So it sounds very interesting journey because getting a recognition for 14 time continuously is not that easy thing, and we all know like how much you have contributed to earn this prestigious title so many times. So we just wanted to know more about your journey, so let's start from the beginning itself. So could you please share like what initially inspired you to pursue a career in IT industry, and how did your early days of programming on Z80 based hardware that shaped your career later?
Very good question. I've always found computers interesting since I was a kid. I remember growing up in Africa and seeing these punch cards. So this is a long, long time ago, but seeing punch cards, hundreds and hundreds of punch cards with little holes in them. And that was my first, I guess, exposure to computing. I didn't realize what they were. I had no idea that those holes were basically signifying data, binary. But later on, as a child, I started playing with a Z80 based computer called the Amstrad CPC 464. And
Okay.
I was playing games on that with a friend. And when I got bored of the games themselves or the games were too hard, the next logical step for me at that time was to figure out, well, how can I make the game easier? You know, how can I give myself infinite lives and so on? And that taught me to dig deeper uh, in terms of disassembling games, figuring out how they're made. And then, of course, I had to learn assembly in order to hack them. So I taught myself Z80 assembler, um, and that was, yeah, it was a very interesting period in my life because there was no internet really back then. There was no Google. You had to learn by doing
Mhm.
and reading magazines and books.
Okay. So, now, like when we look towards your journey, one thing that really sets apart you from others is your recognition. Means you have been recognized as a MVP for 14 time, right? So, as I mentioned earlier, also like that's not an easy thing because we all know that how much you have contributed to on this prestigious title. So, I just want to know like what does this recognition mean to you? I'm pretty much sure like you are very honored to receive this title, but how it has impacted your career journey.
Yes. I remember when I first was awarded MVP back in 2010. That
Okay.
was really a major accomplishment for me at the time. I wasn't really searching to become an MVP at that time, but I was
Hmm.
very, very active on Microsoft TechNet forums. and other
Okay.
forums, including my own, windowsnoob.com. So I was so active at that time because I was going through a learning period myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it was mainly in the SCCM space, but also Microsoft Deployment Toolkit. And I was learning and sharing knowledge so much at that time that one or two people reached out to me and said, "Hey, we'd like to nominate you."
Okay.
So once they did that, it started the whole ball rolling towards where we are today. So I'm forever grateful to those guys because yes, it did change my career and it gave me lots of new opportunities and it meant that I could work for the global company that I'm working for today.
Okay. So, now, like as a 14-time Microsoft MVP, what one piece of advice you would like to give all those who also want to become a Microsoft MVP? So, what is your thought here? Like, what is your guidance?
Okay, so first of all, I'll point the readers or the watchers of this video to niallbrady.com and search for how to become an MVP. I've actually blogged
Okay.
a lengthy blog post there about what you should do in order to become an MVP. But
Mm-hmm.
even before you get to that stage, you have to understand, first of all, it's a lot of work. You will spend a
Yes.
lot of your time, your personal time, your family time. You can wave bye bye to a lot of that because you really have to invest a lot of time in order to become an
Correct.
MVP. And just wanting to become an MVP is not enough. It doesn't guarantee that you will become an MVP. You have to have a passion and it has to be consistent and it has to be, yeah, in an area that, of course, Microsoft is interested in.
Yes, and as a Microsoft MVP, I'm also agree with each and every point mentioned by Niall here, because yes, if you are just doing it for the certification, then you can do any other course. But if you have that passion to share and contribute for the IT industry, either in any technology, in web development, Angular, or anything, so in that situation, yes, you should come forward and you should prepare for this MVP program. And as Niall also mentioned that before reaching out to that stage, you should know that getting this recognition is not enough, because after that the journey starts when you are recognized with a MVP title. Later on, like, you have to spend your time, extra time, to contribute to this community. So I'm also agree with all these points. And for sure, like those who are interested to become MVP, they can visit Niall's blog in order to learn more about this program, so it would for sure help you to understand the process.
I'll share
Okay.
the link with you after this, Amit.
Yeah, sure. For sure. Like, we are going to mention the link in the description also. So you can watch that. Okay. So, Nile, as a MVP, like, for sure, you have worked upon so many projects. So I just wanted to know, like, looking back at your career, what's been the most rewarding part, or maybe the project that you have worked upon, or if there is any particular achievement that you think, yes, this is something very close to your heart. So please do share a bit about that.
Right. Yeah. As you say, there's been many, many projects that I've been involved with, but one that really stands out to me is where I was involved with a large group of people securing our operational technology factories
Okay.
globally. Um, Tetra Pak, the company I work for, is a global company, and that means they have factories dotted around the world. And
Mm-hmm.
in those factories, you can have, for example, legacy hardware and legacy operating systems which need to be secured. So I was part of a project that was dealing with that, and it was a very interesting project indeed, and gave me lots of interesting possibilities of working with these um, old hardware, so to speak. But it also allowed me to travel to areas that I've never been to, and that was also a bonus and very interesting.
Okay. And like, let's say if someone is from completely non-technical background and they wanted to shift their career to the IT industry. So what do you think, like, what common thing they might face, or maybe as a challenges or obstacle when they move into the industry, because you have exposure of both area, right? Operational technology as well as IT industry. So what do you think, what are
Mm-hmm.
those common pitfalls?
Well, IT and OT are different in lots of ways. IT is basically the latest and greatest, usually hardware, and also the latest and greatest software.
Yeah.
You've got internet-based client management, which is the de facto standard today. Whereas OT is basically the opposite of that in a lot of cases, and it has
Hmm.
to be for many reasons. So it's probably not internet facing, and therefore client management, the internet becomes tricky, if not impossible. So you things like SCCM, which a lot of people are saying is dead, is not dead yet. It still
Okay.
has openings in areas like that. But if you're thinking about working in the IT or OT industry, make sure to do some research first to see, well, what area do I want to work in and why, and
Hmm.
maybe where do I want to work? Do I want to work, in America or somewhere else? That's important too.
Okay. So whether as a developer or as a MVP, you have contributed a lot for this community. And one of the major area through which you have contributed is your blogs, which we just discussed here, right? So could you please share more about your blogs? Because you run two popular blogs, windowsnoob.com
Mm.
and nilebrady.com. And
Mm.
along with this, you have also authored few books on IT topics. So could you please share
Mhm.
a bit more information about these blogs and how you are consistently contributing through these kind of initiatives?
Yes, of course. So windowsnoob.com, I set it up originally back in 2008 or so,
Hmm.
with the intention for writing guides, step-by-step guides about
Okay.
everything related to SCCM at the time, SCCM and MDT and Windows Deployment Services and RIS, really old
Hmm.
technology, but back then there was a huge demand for it. So I was learning a lot of different things back then, and to help myself with learning that, I basically blogged everything I learned,
Yeah.
and that became pretty popular, and a lot of people were subscribing and joining in. So the forums on windowsnoob.com um, served those people with those demands, but the WordPress site niallbrady.com I use to blog different stuff. So, like
Okay.
short um, pieces of information. I still keep both alive, and I'm working with them constantly. With regards to books, I've written books, contributed to books, and I can tell you that is a real time consumer. So if
Yeah.
you are an MVP and you've been approached to write a book, think twice before you do it. It's a
Yeah.
lot of work. It takes months and months and months to write a book. And even just today, what I do today is I don't write books per se, but I review them. I technically review them. So an example of that would be mastering Windows 365 Second Edition. I was a technical reviewer there, and I've just technically reviewed a new book about mastering Intune, which is coming out soon. And that is also very time consuming, but also very interesting. You
Okay.
can learn stuff like cloud PKI and so on.
Okay. So now these both blogs are active right now, right? You are posting the
Yes,
blogs on both of the websites. Okay, that's great.
yes, I am. Yes.
Okay. And the reason behind keeping it separately is just to share different category work on a different website, right? That's why you are
Yeah,
holding
I
to.
don't mirror everything on both. So,
Okay.
for example, if I do a quick blog on Config Manager, I might just do it on the WordPress site versus the forums. The
Hmm.
forums are really aimed towards step-by-step guides and also sharing knowledge there and solutions.
Okay. Any particular tip you would like to share with those who also wanted to start their career as a blogger, or if someone wants to start the blogging? So, what would be the initial step that they can follow?
First of all, find out, well, okay, what sort of information do people want? There are
Hmm.
many, many successful bloggers out there, and they're blogging pretty much about the same subjects.
Okay.
So, if you go out there and start up your own blog, you're going to have to know, you're going to have to reach, you're going to have to reach your target, and they're going to
Hmm.
have to be interested in what you have to say. So you have to approach it from a new perspective to everyone else. Maybe include video or screenshots, or just approach something differently.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Troubleshooting, for example. There's many different ways you can do it. Also, then you have to decide, well, how am I going to blog? A good way to start is with WordPress. It's very easy to use.
Mm-hmm.
It's very easy to write your blogs with WordPress. Highly recommend it.
Okay. All right, fine. So we discussed about your personal journey, your personal career, and everything. We talked about the blogs. So now it's time to take the discussion into technical terms. So let's talk a
Okay.
bit about your core expertise. So Niall, could you please explain a few terms for, especially for those who are not who are unfamiliar. So just explain the significance of tools like Microsoft Intune, Windows Autopilot, and the Windows 365 Cloud PC in modern IT environment.
Absolutely. Well, Microsoft Intune is your
Mhm.
client, modern client management system.
Okay.
Think of it as a single pane of glass for your entire estate. That those devices can be Windows based, Android, iOS, Mac OS, whatever. It's for client management, and it's management that it comes from the cloud. So internet connectivity is a must.
Okay.
That's Microsoft Intune in a nutshell. It's a lot more than that, obviously,
Yeah.
and it has really grown in the last number of years and matured. It's still not perfect. There could be things that are done better, but they're getting there at least. In terms
Mhm.
of Windows Autopilot, think of that as a your modern management delivery of those Windows devices.
Mhm.
So today, Windows 11 devices can come straight from your OEM, original equipment manufacturer, with Windows, and it can be registered to your tenant so that you can very quickly enroll, your end users can enroll the device and get the apps and policies that are applicable to your organization. So
Mhm.
that's Windows Autopilot. It's also um, fairly custom. You can customize it for your own particular scenario. Is it perfect? No. It would be great to see something like good old fashioned SECM task sequences where you can decide exactly what installs and when. I really
Okay.
miss that about Windows Autopilot, that we don't have that still today. With regards to Windows 365 cloud PCs, well, they're just virtual machines that sit in the cloud. Uh, and they can be managed using Microsoft Intune just like you manage your Windows devices today.
Mhm.
There's various different types of Windows 365 Cloud PC for the standard workers, for frontline workers, and of course, even for specialized workers such as CAD users needing GPU, for example.
Okay. All right. So now we all know that implementing these tools can be a benefit for organization for sure. But we also know that there are some key challenges that every organization might face when they are implementing Microsoft Intune for the endpoint management, right? So, like, how do you recommend to overcome those kind of challenges, and what are those common pitfalls that organization might face while implementing the Microsoft Intune?
Well, because Intune is based in the cloud,
Mm-hmm.
you need good internet, first of all.
Yes.
So you'll have connectivity issues guaranteed. It's going to happen sooner or later. You're also going to have network related issues. Maybe you have a third party cloud firewall
Okay.
solution or VPN solution, such as Zscaler, which can block or interrupt communication between the Microsoft Intune in the cloud and your managed devices. And
Mm-hmm.
that can cause problems, and you have to troubleshoot it, of course.
Okay.
My advice to anyone that's starting out with Intune today is to make sure that you have a test environment, a test tenant, and
Okay.
that you can test all your scenarios, whatever the scenarios are, both on virtual machines and on real hardware. So test before you release it to production. That would be what I would suggest, definitely.
Okay, so test environment is one of the mandatory thing that everyone should use before deploying the actual project. All right.
Yes, having access to a test tenant is fantastic.
Okay, fine. All right. And whenever we discuss about the Windows Autopilot, so we often heard that Windows Autopilot simplify the device provisioning. So what do you think? Like, what are some of the challenges that we might face while utilizing the Autopilot simplified for device provisioning, and how we can avoid those kind of challenges at the time of deployment?
Well, with Windows Autopilot, you can have different types of deployment profiles
Okay.
depending on the situation that you're trying to solve. But because it's internet based, again, and
Hmm.
because you've got network challenges or may have network challenges such as Wi-Fi, VPN, whatever, impacting the deployment of applications and policies and certificates, those things need to be taken into consideration and tested. So going back to the previous question, you need to test all this stuff over and over again,
Hmm.
and things can change from day to day or week to week. So just because you have a Windows Autopilot scenario that's working today doesn't mean it's going to work next week. For example, a certificate could expire, causing failures of enrollment or whatever.
Correct. All right. Okay. And fine. So we talked about the Microsoft Intune and Microsoft Windows Autopilot. So now let's talk about the future, because right now everyone is talking about AI, the impact of AI. So what do you think? Like, what are some of the most exciting trends or innovation you have seen in end user computing and operational technology over the past few years, maybe in terms of AI transformation or any changes or innovation that you are seeing?
Yeah, AI is the big word today, and it is everywhere, and it's also good, but it's also bad. Uh,
Okay.
I would encourage people to use AI in whichever way suits them best. I like to leverage AI when I'm building new solutions, new scripts, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say I need to do a script to solve a problem. I
Mm-hmm.
have no problem reaching out to Copilot and asking it to create a quick function in PowerShell to do a certain task. Now, will
Mm-hmm.
it give a perfect result? Usually not. You have to work with Copilot back and forth to get the result that you want. You have to encourage it to add more functionality like logging or whatever. But it certainly helps you to build the bare skeleton of a solution that you're trying to release. So it speeds up your work as long as you
Okay.
understand how to work with it. So you need to
Okay.
understand that AI is not going to do everything for you. You have to work with it to produce the sort of results that you need. But it's great. It's amazing actually.
Okay. So, now, like, you have also directly worked and contributed for the sustainability in food industry. So, just please share one of the example that you think that yes, this is the piece of work that you delivered as a IT solution, and it has directly contributed or to the sustainability in the food industry.
That's a very good question. So I would think a perfect example of that would be the pre-provisioning capabilities of Windows Autopilot. So with
Okay.
Windows Autopilot, what you can do is you can target certain devices that are due to be shipped to users with a pre-provisioned Windows Autopilot profile, meaning that when it's imaged in the factory or your third-party provider, it will get the correct applications, updates, drivers, whatever that you need on the device prior to the end user even getting it. You can
Okay.
think of that as almost like SCCM laying down a task sequence or a core image before the end user logs onto it. So
Mm-hmm.
it's sustainable because it saves time, energy, and user frustration. by the time the user gets the device, it's already set up. All they have to do is a very quick enrollment. So Windows Autopilot with pre-provisioning, I think, is a very good example of contributing towards sustainability for the food industry.
Okay. Fine. So now, like we all know that there are many things that we can discuss with a 14-time Microsoft MVP, but we have a limited time. So I just would like to
Mm-hmm.
ask my last question, and this question is related to all those person who have helped you in your journey. They might be your family member, colleagues, friends. So what do you think? Like, who are the key people who have guided you, inspired you, or supported you in your journey?
Yeah, you mentioned family. Of course, I'm very grateful to them for putting up with all the hours I've spent over the years sitting in my room, either researching, testing, blogging, whatever, having meetings with you or other people. It's never ending, but I still love it. But I should also definitely mention a few people that literally catapulted me into the whole MVP space back in the beginning, back in 2010. And those people that I'd like to mention are Jason Sandys, who's former MVP, but is now a principal manager in Microsoft. Also, Aidan Finn, he's an Azure MVP today. Brian Mason of MOA, Sherry Kissinger, Wally Mead, who is an ex-Microsoft PM for SCCM, and also Stefan Schorling, who's a Swedish Microsoft MVP. Thanks to all of
All
them.
right. Yeah, for sure. All right. So thank you so much, Niall, for joining us in this episode and for sharing so much information about the Microsoft Intune and for sharing about your blogs. I'm pretty much sure those blog will also help many of our listeners. So thank you once again for being a part of the show.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate being given the chance to share a few words. Hopefully, it was of some use to someone. Thanks, Sumit.
Thank you.